Hello everyone. So let's start with our today's topic. So today in the video we will be talking firstly about the liberal nationalism. So if we talk about Europe in the early 19th century, it was very much closely associated to the ideology of liberalism, that is to be free. Now, the term liberalism is derived from the Latin word that is liber, that means free. And liberalism during those times stood for freedom for a particular individual, and it also demanded equality before the law for all of the people. The term liberalism, the term liberal nationalism, the concept of liberal nationalism actually emphasize the concept of government by consent, that is, the government by the people, and also government that should be formed with the help of the consent of the people. Now, a constitution and representative government through parliament was required for the same. Now, during those time, there was the right to vote that was being given to the people, and to get elected was generated exclusively to only the property owning men. So during those time, the right to vote was only given exclusively to the people who owned property, and that to only men. So men without property and all the women were excluded from the political rights, that is, they didn't have any right, they didn't have any right to vote. And women and the non-propertied men, that is those who don't have any property, and they all came together and organized opposition movements. They fought for their rights, and they also demanded equal political rights when they protested. So they were very much unhappy with the things that were happening around them, and they were not given any equal rights to that of the propertied man, that is the people who had property. They were given all the political rights, that is they were given right to vote, to right to get elected. So these particular rights were not given to the non-propertied men and also the women, so they revolted for their rights. Now let's talk about what was Zollverein. So Zollverein was a coalition of German state. So basically, there were such conditions that were being created. These conditions were actually viewed as obstacles to economic exchange, and these conditions were obstacles to also growth by the new commercial classes, and these commercial classes actually argued for the creation of a unified economic territory. So what was the advantage of a unified economic territory? That that unified economic territory will allow the unhindered movement of goods, people and capital. Now, in 1834, what happened was that a customs union, or Zollverein, was formed at the initiative of Prussia, and this was basically joined by most of the German states. That is why it is called as the Coalition of German States. Now, the union actually abolished the tariff barriers, and it also reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to only now 2. So it reduced the number of currencies. Earlier there were 30, now it was only 2. And also there was a network that was being created of railways, which actually helped in the mobility of goods. And it also harnessed economic interest to national unification. So there was a wave of economic nationalism that actually strengthened it made strong the wider nationalist sentiments that were growing during that time. So what happened was that after the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, European governments were driven by a spirit of conservatism. So what is conservatism? A political philosophy that actually emphasized on the importance of tradition and established institutions and also customs, and this preferred gradual development to quick change. So gradual development was acceptable in conservatism case, quick change was not acceptable. So this was conservatism that was there. The spirit of conservatism was there when Napoleon was defeated. So conservatives were the people who actually believed that they actually believed in traditional institutions of state and society, and they believed in monarchy, the church, social hierarchies, property, and the family. They all should be preserved according to them. So most of the conservatives, however, they did not propose a return to the society of pre-revolutionary days. Rather, what they wanted is that they realized what the changes were occurring around them, that were being initiated by Napoleon. They realized those changes, and modernization in fact strengthened the traditional institutions. They felt that due to modernization the traditional institutions will be now more strong, like the monarchy. Now a very important fact is that a modern army, an efficient bureaucracy, a dynamic economy, and the abolition of feudalism and serfdom, these all will help strengthen, to make strong the autocratic monarchies of Europe. So this was their thought process of the conservatives. Now in 1815, representatives of the European powers, that is Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, they were the only ones who had collectively defeated Napoleon, and they met at Vienna to draw upon a settlement for Europe, and this was the Treaty of Vienna. And the Congress was actually hosted, this Congress or this meeting was actually hosted by the Austrian Chancellor Duke Metternich. Now the delegates, these all met and they drew upon the Treaty of Vienna of 1815, and the main objective of this treaty was undoing the most of the changes that were there in Europe during the Napoleonic Wars. Now the Bourbon dynasty which was there, it has actually deposed during the French Revolution, and it was restored to power, and France lost the territories it had annexed under Napoleon. Now there were a series of states that were set up on the boundaries of France to actually prevent the French expansion in future. So, the Kingdom of Netherlands, which was included in Belgium, was also set up in the north, and Genoa was added to Piedmont in the south. So, Prussia was given a very important new territories on its western frontiers. While if we talk about Austria, Austria was actually given the control of northern Italy. But the German Confederation of 39 states, it had been set up by Napoleon. It was left untouched, so no change was there. And in east, if we talk about towards the eastern side, Russia was given the part of Poland, while if we talk about Prussia, Prussia was given a portion of Saxony. Now, the main intention behind all this was to restore the monarchies that had been overthrown by Napoleon, and it was very important to note that they also wanted to create a new conservative order in Europe by all these changes. Now, conservative regimes that were being set up in 1815 were autocratic, and they did not tolerate criticism at all, and they also wanted to curb the activities that questioned their legitimacy. Most of them, what they did is that they imposed censorship laws because they wanted to control everything. So, what was said in newspapers, books, plays, and songs. So, all these which reflected the ideas of liberty and freedom associated with the French Revolution. So, the memory of the French Revolution continued to inspire the liberals. But one of the major issues that was taken up by the liberal nationalists who actually criticized the new conservative order was the freedom of the press. So, notably, there were some of the changes that were being brought about by the conservatives. That was the return of autocratic regimes. They did not tolerate any kind of criticism, and they imposed censorship laws, and which actually limited the spread of liberal ideas. Now let's talk about the revolutionaries. So during 1815, there was this fear of repression that was there, and many liberal nationalists were underground as revolutionaries wanted to oppose the monarchical forms, and their main aim was to actually fight for liberty and freedom. So there was this very important secret societies that actually sprang up in many parts of European states, and these secret societies were actually basically involved in training the revolutionaries and spreading the ideas. Now, to be a revolutionary at this point of time, this actually meant a commitment to oppose the monarchical forms, as I told you. So, most of these revolutionaries they also saw the creation of nation states as a very important step, as a very important part of this struggle for freedom. So, one very important individual who was there, who was the Italian revolutionary, who was Giuseppe Mazzini. He was born in Genoa in 1807, and he became a member of the secret society of the Carbonari. Now, as a young man of 24, he was sent to exile in 1831. Why he was sent to exile? Because he attempted a revolution in Liguria, and he subsequently founded two more underground societies. The first one was the Young Italy, that was in Marseilles, and the second was Young Europe in Bernay. Now, whose members were actually like minded? They were young men from Poland, France, Italy, and other German states. So, Mazzini believed that God has actually intended nations to be natural units of mankind. So, Italy, if we talk about, could not continue to be a patchwork of small states and kingdoms, and so it had to be forged into a single unified republic within a wider alliance of nations. Now, hence, the unification alone could be the basis of Italian liberty. So, this model was followed, and secret societies were set up in Germany as well, in France, Switzerland, and Poland. Mazzini's opposition to monarchy and his vision of democratic republics have actually frightened the conservatives. So, Metternich here described him as the most dangerous enemy of our social order. So, students, basically, the aim of the secret societies was to spread the ideas of nationalism and to oppose the Treaty of Vienna. And mainly, their aim was to fight for the freedom and equal rights. So, children, that's all for today. We'll come back again with the next video, with the next topic. Till then, thank you so much.